So right now, I want you to think about this do now for just a moment. So think about a challenging year two principal that you're working with this year. It could be a principal that never comes to your meetings. Or maybe it's a principal who does attend, but they're negative or states the ideas you're sharing, oh, that'll never work in my school. That's not going to work here, right? Or it could be something else. So choose an example that's kind of fresh in your mind. If nothing is coming to you with somebody that is in your mentor group right now, just pick another example of maybe a dean that you're working with or a teacher that you're helping your dean support. So take a moment now just to think about what happened in your most recent conversation. What did that person say? What was their body language like? What did you say? And how did you feel during the conversation? So if you want to jot just some things down, because we'll be coming back to this a little bit later for yourself, go ahead. Or if this is really fresh in your mind and you don't need to jot anything down, that's fine too. But take a minute to think about this here. All right, I hope you have something in mind. These are our norms for today, Giovanna. I know you're with us and not feeling well, so we'll let that go today. But thank you, everyone, for being present for our time together today. The outcome of today's session is for you to develop some skills that you can use when you're experiencing resistant mentoring experiences. So I know that you all are really skilled in these things, but so hopefully these will just be some new tips and tricks that you can add to your tool belt of the great things that you're doing already, or as you help support your two principals in navigating some of their challenging experiences as well. So with that, I share today's agenda. So Jen's going to drop that link for you in the chat. This is an interactive agenda, as you are probably familiar with by now. The what has everything that we'll be covering, why, and then how has links to resources that we'll be needing a little bit later. So as you look through this agenda, set your intention for how you want to show up for today's meeting. This will help you to focus on what's important and to be fully present with our group for our time together. I'll give you a minute just to look over this. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute or drop something in the chat. All right, so as I've said, our time together today, the first portion will be spent on your development, and our topic is going to be discussing resistance and how we activate our curiosity as we approach that resistance that we're experiencing. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to read an article from Elena Aguilar. It's called How to Deal with Resistance to Coaching. So Jen's going to drop that link for you. Otherwise, you can access it from your interactive agenda. And as you're reading, think about what's resonating with you. So at the end of our time here, I'm going to start the timer, but go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you're ready to move on. And be ready to share something that resonates with you from this article. Okay, I think this timer is still going, but with that being said, I don't want it to go off because it's really obnoxiously loud. So with that being said, what resonated with you? Go ahead and unmute and just share something that you're thinking about.
I really like the perspective of changing the mindset of it being fear. I think all of us, when we go into this, the fear of failure. And so just approaching it with the mindset of the emotion and how to get to the person and get to the heart of the matter. I think that's even with students as well, like understanding why students are behaving the way they are. Like we take the time to try to understand and analyze the student's behavior. I think the same courtesy should be extended to teachers. Why are they responding this way? Do they truly not care? Because that's what I was like, they don't care. Do they truly not care? Or is it something else there? And just trying to figure that out. I think that's what resonated with me the most, of really thinking of it as more so as fear.
Yeah. Thank you, Giovanna.
So when I read step 3, activate your curiosity, it reminds me of when I think things are going awry, I do a 10-minute meeting with all of my staff, one at a time, to figure out what's going on, and just asking those questions and seeking to understand what's happening is really your best bet. And you get more information in 10 minutes from each person than in a whole year sometimes. just meaning like they're one-on-one able to tell you if you ask the questions ahead of time, they get time to think about it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to ask those questions ahead of time so they have that processing time. So your 10 minutes can really be the most effective. Thanks for sharing that. Just those quick check-ins. Well, thank you for sharing. So, as shared in the article, there's 5 steps, and Tammy just referenced step 3, which is to activate your curiosity. But there's 5 steps that we, as the coach or as the principal or as your dean, would need to take. The first 3 involve the coach's beliefs and ways of being. So, step 1 is to explore your own fear. Step 2 is to activate your compassion. And step 3 is to activate your curiosity. So go ahead and you can I'll give you like 1 minute just to read over this slide. I'm not going to read it to you. Just read over the slide just to refamiliarize yourself with these first 3 steps of coach's beliefs and ways of being. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you're ready. As you think about that person that you were thinking about in the do now, what's coming up for you as you reflect on your own beliefs and ways of being? Sure, Tammy, that's fine.
I was thinking just a continuation of the activating your curiosity. I think that's what Tammy was just talking about, and just getting more curious about what they might be feeling and going through, especially in these year 2 principles. I think they go into year 2 hoping things are going to be so much better than year 1, and year 2 is just not is just as difficult, if not even more challenging in a lot of ways. And so just considering, what do they need and want from us to feel that what they're going through and experiencing is normal, and that they will get through year 2 as successfully as they made it through year 1, and it'll be okay. But I think getting curious is really important.
Thanks. Thank you, Jen. Sabrina?
Yeah, the activate your compassion really resonates with me. And I think I've never really named it before, right? Like reading this article, I'm like, oh, that really does resonate with me, because I personally default to compassionate during these conversations all the time. And I will see a better result when I do that. So like, for example, right before this meeting, I had an intervention teacher that's like, I don't want to go to that math class anymore. The teacher is making me do homework. And just kind of angry about it and resisting what we're asking her to do. And I was just like, I get that. Like, your role is to fill holes. Like, you just connect with the person, then they open up more and you can lead to a better solution. So instead of always like maybe adjusting somebody that's resistant, I think it's more important to show love, and then you will get better results.
I like that. Yeah. Tammy likes it too. All right, Aaron.
So I'm in total agreement with what Sabrina just said. My thought was, around this fear, this word fear, right? What I've experienced is that the relationship, right? The relationship that you create really breaks down the barriers of people not sharing their fears. And really, quite honestly, the biggest fear from most teachers is to be viewed as incompetent.
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't realize it's going to show up in data anyway. And so, but they're more comfortable sharing those fears when they feel like there's that transparent relationship that they have with you as the leader. And so I'm in total agreement. Sometimes you can love on them and get them to open up, about the things that they're fearful of. But I always know for most teachers, that fear is, how am I being perceived? Am I being perceived around the building as being incompetent? Hey, I'm not able to do my job effectively? Am I minimally effective? All these kind of things, especially if those are the teachers that you're trying to coach up and they still haven't seen that data needle move.
Right. Yeah. it's the same thing too with our year 2 principals, new deans, anybody who's like in a new role or is being asked to make a change or do something differently, right? Everybody likes their own change. They just don't like when other people are telling them to change. And
Emily, and what I did was I told my year 2 principals, and I remember this. I'm going on 7 years here, February 15th with NHA. And I remember my very first leadership summit, Todd told us, do not flirt with the perception of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I told them the exact same thing. It's okay for you to tell people around the building, hey, I don't know. Let me get back with you. I'll follow back up with you. Let me find out. But sometimes as new leaders, we feel like we have to be the know-all, be-all, when really you don't know. And it's okay for you to say, I don't know. Right?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is. And Aaron, like a lot of what you're talking about like staying in relationship, that comes into Elena's like steps 4 as you're exploring resistance, right? Like staying in relationship. If you already have a relationship with the person, it makes it a little bit easier, right? So we've moved from the coach's ways of being and beliefs into the actual behaviors of the coach. So staying in relationship by asking some of these types of questions. Would you be willing to say more? I really want to understand. And then moving into the ACE coaching framework. And so we're going to focus on Elena Aguilar is actually coaching a teacher, and we're going to call her a dean in this case. And we're going to listen to a conversation in just a moment, just a portion of the conversation as she's working with a resistant teacher. So we're going to now look at a couple of resources. Jen's going to drop those in the chat for you. There's some coaching sentence stems, and I've been sharing this a lot lately with people that I've been working with, new deans or new principals. It's just really helpful and opens up the conversation a little bit more. And then also the ACE in action. So acknowledging and accepting emotions, cultivating that compassion, and then having people to expand the story. So take a moment now to explore these resources that have been dropped in the chat or through your interactive agenda. And then as we get ready to listen to Elena's coaching conversation, I want you to think about where are these pieces popping up in the conversation that she's having with the resistant teacher. So take a moment now to look over these resources. Okay, I want to set you up for what you're about to hear. So the dean, Elena, is meeting with the teacher, Mike, who teaches 8th grade U.S. history. Mike was supposed to be integrating some literacy strategies like front-loading vocab and using small group instruction discussion protocols, but he hasn't, and they've been working on this for a few months. So as you listen, I want you to consider, how does Elena stay in relationship and use ACE, and what does she say? So when we're done listening, you can be ready to answer those questions. Just so you know, this is a very long conversation. I've included the entire podcast in your folder. And so, again, we're going to join it already like some time in, and then we're going to end it before it's over. But I'm going to get ready to share that with you now.
We have to pay attention to their writing skills and conventions and be very transparent about the ways that power and language intersect. But I guess I just don't feel like I have the space or frankly the expertise to develop the writing tools for most of our kids, which is where they got English class, they've got ESL teachers. That feels like where that lives, but I'm still struggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a struggle. This really is a dilemma. There's not really a solution. Which is really sad.
Yeah.
I think I'm just wanting to acknowledge, I hear your commitment to your kids, and there's some elements here that are really frustrating and sad and outside of a conversation about front-loading vocabulary using graphic organizers.
Yeah, I guess I wish I had time for it all, right? I mean, if I had 90-minute classes, If I felt like I had time to spare, sure, let's give me some other stuff to throw in there. I think I feel the crunch of time. I'm very anxious about how much we need to do and how little time there is to do it. You know, whenever there's some back to school special meeting, they stick that in social studies class. So I guess it's not that I don't see the need, but I just feel maxed out in terms of what I can provide. And I don't know, I guess I'd ask you, do you think that if there isn't time for everything, do you think that the vocabulary work and the small group discussion, do you feel like that will be better for kids and their engagement with history and civics and economics this year than not?
I think I see our students wanting to get deeper into the curriculum that you're offering them and wanting to share their reflections and not having the tools.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I hear you on the lack of time. And I hear your fear and anxiety about sort of having to make all these decisions with, there's a whole lot of things that you're having to weigh. And I do wonder what would happen if we use some of the literacy strategies, the ones that we've selected. There's so much research into how effective they are. So these are not vocabulary strategies which give kids 12 words a week and have them memorize them. These are strategies to have them learn transferable vocabulary terms. So looking at prefixes and suffixes and roots of words. And when we think about US history and some of the language they're encountering, you know, just immediately what comes to my mind is sort of the role that Greek and Latin plays in some of the historical documents and how that can be transferred into science and into math. And so it's using strategies that are useful in other areas and that might give them ways to either access the content more deeply or to remember it or process it. So, you know, I hear you on the challenge with time. And I wonder, you make a lot of really thoughtful decisions about what to teach and how to teach it with a real commitment to students learning and critical thinking. And I wonder if we could draw on those decision-making skills that you have into thinking about these literacy strategies.
Yeah.
All right. As I shared, if you want to hear more or hear the whole conversation, that is in the folder for you. So as you listened, how did Elena stay in relationship and use the ACE framework? What are some of the things that we heard her saying?
I heard her acknowledging his commitment to kids and acknowledging the struggles and the challenges that he's having with the time. So acknowledging and accepting where he was at. She did a lot of that, I felt like.
Yeah, that acknowledging and accepting emotions, right? Just his feelings and cultivating that compassion for him. What else? Like, what were some of the things we heard her saying? Tammy, are you talking to us or somebody? Okay, sorry.
No, I'm in the hallway because if I'm not here,
It's
there's
okay.
800 people in the hallway.
It's okay.
I mean, I saw her like restating things that he said and just like making sure he felt heard, like summarizing and then giving him like a little bit of thought provoking, like the sentence stems, like what you just said.
Yes.
She obviously used those.
Yeah, they're hers, so it's a good thing she's using them, right? So we could also hear her saying, well, I wonder if, right? Which goes into, let's expand the story. I wonder what's possible if this were to happen. You didn't hear her saying, why haven't you used these? What's going on? Why, right? Because why just allows for excuses and nothing gets resolved. So using those sentence stems, using the ACE framework and staying in relationship really helps us when we are experiencing some resistance. And so now it's your turn, mentors. I want you to practice using some of these, you know, coaching sentence stems, or maybe you have one of your own that you find to be really useful, and ACE by applying it to your current practice with the mentee that you thought about in your You Now. So I want you to take a minute to kind of craft what you might say to this person. And I would like for us to be able to share out like how you would start the conversation. So a couple people are ready to share. We can just share those examples. You don't need to say any names. So just say, I'm working with this year 2 principal, or I'm working with, somebody else that came to mind, and how you might start that conversation. So take a minute to kind of put some of those thoughts together, and then we'll share. Okay, who has a situation they'd like to share with us and how they get their conversation started?
I don't mind starting unless somebody else wants to. I just don't want to be a Google Meet dog. So
You're not at all.
okay. I have a year 2 principal that every meeting so far has just been really negative about everything we've talked about. So, and let me make sure you understand the content of what we talked about is driven by their feedback, right? So at the end of my session every month, I say, what do you guys want to talk about next month? And we come up with a list, and then I have just been putting them in month by month. So the first month was like observing with your admin team, how to make that work. What does that look like? And the second month was coaching your deans. How does that look? How can you implement that into your week? So I'm just going to use those 2 examples. I mean, now we've had 2 more months, but those 2 stick out to me. So both times my year 2 principal basically was like, I can't observe. I have no time. Behavior takes over everything. We all gave solutions, right? That's the whole problem of practice. We gave solutions. I said, hey, okay, let's just try something. We'll come back next month and see what happens. So we go back in October. October comes, go around the table. What did you guys do to implement this? And he basically said, it didn't work. I couldn't do it. Nothing worked. Okay, well, that's okay. Let's try to coach our deans still, So how can we figure that out? We all give solutions again. So basically everything's I can't, behavior gets in the way, service center people are in the building, too much is too much. So I think what I need to be really intentional with when you're talking about like figuring out your conversation, I need to be supportive, right? So I need to start with like, this is so normal. It's so overwhelming to be a second year principal. Like, I know there never feels like there's time. When I was a second year principal, I barely was surviving, giving that little bit of empathy. And then like, let me understand the problem. So the problem is you can't observe with your admin team. So like, what can you commit to for sure this month to do a little bit differently? Because I think you could be successful. And if you are together as an admin team, perhaps you will cut down on the amount you need to be in classrooms because you're now giving these other tools to your deans that can help support you. I don't know. I was like looking at it like empathy, have them reflect, and then like holding them accountable for change.
Yeah. What does everybody else think?
Sabrina, I know you guys have probably given, the suggestions. I think when you're asking, you're doing for the empathy, I mean, because everything you're saying, to be honest with you, is the same thing I would say. So to be honest with you, I think you're doing an excellent job. Besides time, what's like one of the suggestions that you thought was like a really good suggestion that they then found a reason to say, or he or she, I don't know who, but he or she, the reason they gave you for why they couldn't make it work? Just trying to understand them a little, like that, like trying to empathize more, so like more specifically. Right. That's all. Yeah. So just trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So some solutions, like what I do with my team, for me, I said, you should build it into your admin meeting. Like I do 2 hours a week of admin meeting and we observe every time. So that was mine. Another principal said that they do after school meetings, like at on Tuesdays, like they don't do dismissal and they do after school, so they can't observe. So then we talked a little bit about how they could do it during O3s and at least start one-on-one. So we were trying to show him that there was time that you already have hard scheduled that you could build this into rather than making this an extra duty. Is that what your question was, Giovanna?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So I'm looking like, ooh, Sabrina, I feel bad for you. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry. Oh, it must be positive though. Positive. Okay.
I mean, I'm not his boss, so I just smile and nod and tell his boss, right? So
I love it. I smile and nod. That's what I do to parents when they act crazy. I do the same face, Sabrina.
Yeah. So, as you're thinking about that and saying, hey, so tell me more about what your O3 is structured like, and what would this look like if you were to restructure? Can you consider this alternative meeting structure to just like a coaching conversation, right? So tell us what that would look like, and then you can get them to be accountable to that. But yeah, I agree. You're on the right track with that, cultivating that compassion. Thank you for sharing, Sabrina. I want to make sure that you all have enough time, but if any of you would like to explore this a little bit more, please let me know. And so when you are coaching resistance, and all of these graphics and things are all from Bright Morning and Elena Aguilar, they're also in your folder for our February folder of learning today. But as you're exploring that resistance, remember that resistance is actually fear, and it's fear that one of their core human needs will not be met, right? And Erin had talked about that feeling of incompetence, right? And that also comes here, like belonging or having mastery. And so in order to combat that fear, we want to explore our own beliefs and ways of being, and then activate our curiosity, staying in that relationship and moving through ACE. So I hope that by exploring this process, it will help you as you continue to work to mentor your year 2 principals. And it also might help you to bring up any challenges or experiences that they're having with their direct reports or deans. So thank you for engaging in that. And now let's spend a little bit of time in collaboration. So today you're going to prepare for your next meeting, which is going to be February 21st. There is no meeting in March because of March principals meeting. So either us or you meeting with your cohort. So some people may reach out and need like an individual meeting. So do that as you're able. So we're going to pop into our folder, and you should see a February presentation there for you. So go ahead and open that up. Jen, are you able to drop the link to the Google Drive? Thank you. So that's in the chat. So let's go ahead and get into your presentations. And I know typically you all ask just to stay in this room as you're navigating through this. As a reminder, the things that need updating are highlighted on that first. So thinking about, I don't know if you all have your problem of practice already set that's going to take place in a couple of weeks, or just some ideas or topics that are coming up for you. I also want to share one more thing because Tammy brought this up. Some people have a midwinter break. I don't know if you guys are off for like a Friday, Monday, or Monday, Tuesday, or off the entire week. So if the 21st is not working with your schedule and we want to like shift that down a week, just let me know and I'll update the meeting invitation for you to make sure that your participants can attend. So I'll mute now and feel free to any questions. And yep, Tammy, you want yours to the 28th, correct? Okay. So I'll mute, but feel free to ask any questions of one another as we have about 6-ish minutes or so to dive into your presentations here. Okay, Tammy, yours is definitely moved. You guys can unmute if you want to share any ideas or thoughts.
I'm sorry, I was ringing my cowbell for change of class. We're just doing our presentations for the next time.
Yep, we're just taking a look at it in our folders and seeing if anybody has any ideas. I dropped a few different like launches in there for you, but
is it an April one? Because I don't see April.
Right now, we're only doing
March.
February. We'll meet again in
February. I don't even know what month it is. Sorry. February, yes.
Yeah, so you guys are just preparing for your February meeting, and then we'll meet again April 17th, all of us together, and then you have 2 cohort meetings, and that will be it. So right now it's just the February 21st, and for you, the 28th meeting.
What's everybody doing for their problem of practice? I'm thinking about the SIP. I'm just wondering what everyone else is thinking of.
I do the same thing that Sabrina does, Tammy. I actually email my principals and ask them what do they want to focus on, and so that's what I do. I'll email you what my slide looks like so you can kind of do it, and then I can also email you the email that I send to them to inquire what they want to focus on, and I just take their wording and pop it in, and we just kind of go through each of the things that they're struggling with. That's kind of how we do. We don't just do one thing. We actually do. I have 3 of them. We do 3 different things during our time together.
So
Yeah,
mine
mine becomes sort of
never
an
send
opposite.
me anything. They always say they have nothing. So,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
I'll ask them again. You're right. I'll ask them again.
I always put something in there that we agree upon the last time, and then it always takes a left turn when we get in there. And then they have something that's like their crisis in the moment. And I'm like, okay, our problem of practice we agreed upon before is not the priority anymore. You know, it's really, we're there to be that support system for each of them. So I often just turn it into, okay, what is it that you're dealing with today or yesterday that's really got you going? And then we work through that together as a team. And sometimes there's a few different things, but it's been really helpful to just help them get them through some really tough, what are in the moment, crisis moments for them. So I'm going to work on how to keep teachers motivated through the next couple of months, because it's, you know, March is a hard month as you're creeping up on spring break. And you know, we don't get a whole lot of time for winter break. It's, you know, a long weekend, so they're tired and needing to keep teachers engaged.
Tammy, Sabrina dropped hers into the chat too of what she's going to be doing. Thank you, Giovanna and Jen, for sharing too. So with that, as you all know, if you have any questions, needs, ideas, please don't hesitate to share those. I am going to be looking within the next couple months to get some one-on-one time with each of you, just to have a conversation about year 1 mentoring versus year 2 mentoring, and the direction that we're going to be headed into for next year, because this was our first year doing the year 2 principal mentoring. So I need feedback from you all to determine what our next steps are going to be. So, but that will be forthcoming. Any other questions or needs from this group at all? Okay. All right. So again, just to recapture, you have your cohort meeting, and then the 6 of us plus Jen or Janelle will be back together again April 17th to go over just one more of these meetings, and then you have
Knock on the door.
meetings to finish. And so with that, I launch you all. Thank you all for being here today. I launch you with this quote. Resistance is fear. Meet fear with compassion, curiosity, and persistence, and it will soften. So thank you all for being here today and sharing. And as always, if you have any needs or anything like that,